Bringing you news from home, across the globe and the sporting arena. This is Newsfirst Primetime News live on MTV Sports and Shakti TV. I am Shahin Durrangpati.
And I'm Katrina Chang. But before we get into your stories in detail, let's take a look at what's making headlines tonight.
President Maithripala Sirisena engages in religious observances at the Budumuttava Rajamahaviharaya. JVP makes revelations about attempts made to suppress avant-garde investigations.
මේ සිද්ධිය යටපත් කර ගැනීම වෙනුවෙන් ප්‍රබල දේශපාලන වගේම නිලධාරී යාන්ත්‍රණය මෙදිහත් වීමක් තිබෙනවා.
Bandula Gunawardena reveals that the treasury bond irregularities incurs a loss of 1 million rupees a day.
The first of the series of Dhamma sermons that will be held on every Poya Day under the auspices of President Maithripala Sirisena took place today at the Budumuttava Rajamahavihara in Nikabaratia.
Dhamma sermons highlighting the examples that need to be set out by leaders by coming together with the people of the village for religious observances is scheduled to take place on every Poya Day. Thereby, the President, who arrived at the Budumuttava Rajamahavihara in Nikavaratia this morning, engaged in religious observances and obtained blessings. Later, the President called on the chief incumbent, Venerable Dhammagolle Dhammarama Thero, and attended the sermon. The Dhamma sermon was delivered by Agamaha Pandita, Venerable Kotugoda Dhammawasa Anunayaka Thero.
අගමැතිවරුන් පවත්වගෙන ගිය උදාර චාරිත්‍රයක් මේ සිද්ධ කරන්නේ මේ උදාර ධර්ම ශ්‍රවණමේ පුණ්‍ය බලයෙන් දෙව් මිනිස්සපත් කෙලවර අමා මහ නිවන් සම්පත් ලැබේවා කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරා.
ගම් නියම් ගම්වල
Leader of the House, Minister Lakshman Kiriyal, made a statement in Kandy today that the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, which will be introduced in Parliament next week, will reduce the executive powers by 90%. Meanwhile, announcing cabinet decisions to the media today, Cabinet spokesperson Minister Rajitha Senaratne said that the 19th Amendment to the Constitution will come into effect with the changes in the electoral system. A new constitutional amendment will be presented to Parliament on the 8th, 9th and 10th. President Maithripala Sirisena would be the first individual in the country to let go of his powers and hope for a constitutional amendment for it to take place. Once his amendment is approved, his powers will reduce by 90% from next Friday.
The SLFP has reached a decision to include an article which says that this amendment will come into effect with the change in the electoral system. We will not allow anyone to simply jump over the electoral system. The 19th Amendment to the Constitution will only come into effect with the change in the electoral system, which will be an amendment from the SLFP. This means that both will become one thing.
President Maithripala Sirisena was provided a clear public mandate. He was given this public mandate to steer the country in the right direction. He promised that the powers vested with the executive presidency will be abolished. However, now they are attempting to completely cut off his wings and make him a simple puppet and obtain power in a conspiratorial manner sought by those who cannot gain power. They are trying to use various avenues through the law to get this done. We are disappointed over the situation. What should have been done is to listen to all the views that were expressed and reach a more acceptable consensus. If that happens, there will be no need to go to courts, and this can be done by seeking a two-thirds majority in Parliament. This is being obstructed by a group that is attempting to obtain power in a conspiratorial manner. This small group attempts to destabilize the nation and destroy the national culture of this country. This group is attempting to take control of this country. We are disappointed over the situation. We do not approve of this.
Cabinet has taken decision to amend the penal code so that punishments can be imposed on hate speech. Minister Rajitha Senaratne elaborated on the matter at the Cabinet press briefing today.
This will be an amendment to the penal code. It has been decided to penalize any statement made on arousing nationalist and racist sentiments and hate speech as requested by the Lessons Learned and Reconciliations Commission. The punishment will be 2 years imprisonment. We have promised It was even included in the election manifesto and the LLRC recommendations. Besides nationalism, even racism cropped up in the recent past. Today marks Bak Full Moon Poya Day. Bak Poya has great significance to Sri Lanka as it highlights a number of important historical incidents in the Buddha Sasana while devotees engage in Amisa and Pratipatti pujas. Bak Full Moon Poya Day marks Lord Buddha's second visit to Sri Lanka and also heralds a month of national importance. According to the Mahavamsa, Lord Buddha could foresee an imminent war between two Naga kings, Chulodara and Mahodara, over a jewel-studded throne that made him visit Sri Lanka for the second time and preach his doctrine to Chulodara and Mahodara after arriving in Nagadeepa. Bak Full Moon Poya Day shows us that we need to get away from hatred and show compassion. This is a time to show compassion. Therefore, during the forthcoming festive season, we need to be able to give priority to national traditions and rituals. Welcome back to the news. A police investigation is underway over the death of a youth who had jumped off an upper terrace of a building in Pasiala, Nitambua, while fleeing from the police. The investigations are headed by an assistant superintendent of police attached to the Kalaniya division.
CCTV cameras that were installed in a business establishment in Pasiala on the Colombo Kandy Road show a youth taking a leap from the third floor terrace of the building.
MTV බලබල හිටිය පල්ලෙහාත් නතුව පල්ලෙහා කෑල්ලේ ඊට පස්සේ කෑ ගහලා කැහුණා හොරෙක්
I was watching television in the ground floor. Then I heard people scream thief. They then informed me that a person was on the upper floor of my building. Then I went up to the third floor. I saw an individual there. I asked him what he was doing there. However, he did not respond. I noticed a police officer on the road below. I closed the door behind me and went down to fetch the police. Then, through the camera, I saw him jump off the terrace. An individual from Pasiala has thus leaped from the upper terrace of the building. He had been involved in a verbal altercation with a lorry driver while travelling in a motorbike last night. According to the statement provided by the lorry driver's assistant, the motorbike rider had been travelling in the road ahead of the lorry in a manner which obstructed the path. The statement adds that a verbal altercation has broken out between the two parties and the youth had hurled stones at the truck from another location. Later, the lorry driver and his assistant has caught the individual. When I went to look at this situation, they were dragging him by the collar. I asked why they were doing this. They said that he had hurled a stone at their lorry and they were going to hand him over to the police. The lorry driver and his assistant had thereby taken measures to hand over the individual to an on-duty police officer close to the location. The police officer inquired into the incident. At once, he slapped him on the face. The police officer assaulted him. He beat him at different places. He even kicked him. Then the police officer made a call requesting for a jeep, citing that an incident had taken place. Then the individual fled. The police officer beat him. In fear, he fled. The police chased after him. There was only one of them. We do not know where they ran off to. The motorcyclist who fled from the police officer had thus jumped off the third floor of this building. Later, the relatives had admitted him to the Watupitiwala base hospital where he passed away. The deceased was Gayan Puvudu Kumara, a 32-year-old. Our correspondent went on to say that the wife of the deceased was pregnant. The magisterial inquiry over the death of Gayan Puvudu Kumara was conducted by the acting magistrate of Attanagalla, Piyasiri Tambugala. When the police officer had attempted to apprehend the individual, he has tussled with the police officer and fled the scene. Afterwards, he had jumped off the third floor of the building and committed suicide. However, a separate independent investigation is being carried out over this incident.
Welcome back. You're watching News First. Seeing local news, Cabinet spokesperson Minister Rajitha Senaratne speaking to reporters today said that suspicions have arisen as to whether the weapons allegedly sold to the Ukrainian separatists by Sri Lanka's former envoy to Russia, Udayanga Veeratunga, initially belonged to the LTTE. The minister said that an investigation is being carried out over the complaint that has been received.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs had stated on a prior occasion that a complaint has been lodged that former ambassador of Sri Lanka to Russia had supplied arms to the Ukrainian separatists. The ministry added that the complaint in question was lodged by the Ukraine government.
An investigation is underway. However, he is not to be found. The Ukrainian government has informed us that he had supplied weapons to the Ukrainian separatists on 2 occasions. We are attempting to ascertain as to where these weapons came from. There is an issue with the weapons here as well. Information has come to light over mid-sea weapons deals because we have suspicions over dealings with Boko Haram in Nigeria. Therefore, we are investigating as to where the connections with that company and the Rajapaksas led to the supply of weapons to Ukraine. The Secretary to Defence says that none of those weapons are government weapons. Non-government weapons mean weapons that belong to the LTTE. Large amounts of weapons and gold seized from the LTTE is yet to be given to the government.
Meanwhile, the body of the employee who was employed under former ambassador Udayanga Veeratunga was exhumed yesterday following complaints lodged by the relatives that the death had taken place under suspicious circumstances.
The report on the death certificate is yet to be received. We need to wait for that report to ascertain the cause of death.
Leader of the JVP, Kumar Dissanayake, commented on weapons dealings while attending the Minnal program on Shakti TV, which is hosted by senior journalist Jayashree Ranga. Dissanayake said that powerful politicians and officials are intervening to suppress the investigations on avant-garde security services.
There is a view that the rogues need to be nabbed. It is you who brought this view among the public. How do you see this at present? Have you seen the change that you expected?
The Prime Minister too raised a question over the passport of the chairman of the avant-garde security services. After the Attorney General Department intervened, a senior official had stated that the passport was returned due to the intervention of Minister of Justice Vijayadasa Rajapaksa and former Minister Tilak Marapana. Afterwards, we witnessed the statements made by Vijayadasa Rajapaksa.
Tilak Marapana හිටපු අමාත්‍යවරයාගෙත් මෙදිහත් වීම මත කියලා. පස්සේ මම දැක්ක ඒකට විජේදාස පරල වෙලා කෑ ගන්නවා. එතකන් මොකුත් කිව්වේ නැහැ. ඔව් එතකන් මොකුත් කිව්වේ නැහැ.
He did not say anything about it until then. He did not make any statement about me or this matter until then. However, what I said was what was stated at a meeting chaired by his leader, the Prime Minister, over his intervention to release that passport. We also have evidence to this claim.
There is law for avant-garde as well in this country. Can you carry a pistol without a license? You are the leader of the JVP. Clearly, you have threats. You speak of the rogues who wasted public funds. Can you carry a weapon without a license?
නීති විරෝධී ගිනියවියක් නෙවෙයි සාමාන්‍ය ගමක කෙනෙක් බඳින තුවක්කුවක් තියාගත්තා.
Not only an unlicensed weapon, even if you take a normal homemade weapon, you will be arrested and imprisoned under the Firearms Ordinance. However, there is a large amount of weapons under him with a trained force. He has over 4,000 personnel trained by the army. Therefore, there is a force that can commit a military coup and take over the power of this country. We are of the stance that intervention needs to be made to punish those wrongdoers. A statement had also been recorded from the former Secretary of Defence.
හිටපු ආරක්ෂක ලේකම්වරයාගේ මේ පිළිබඳ කට උත්තරයක් අරන් තිබෙනවා. ආරක්ෂක ලේකම්වරයා අතිරේක ගෙදර ගිහිල්ලා ගත්තේ. මා දැක්ක පුවත්පත්‍ර වාර්තා වෙලා තිබුණා මේ ප්‍රශ්න කලින් යවුවත් කියලා.
Yes, I read in the newspapers that a statement was recorded by visiting his home. It is said that the questions were sent to him. The present Secretary of Defence has written over this issue to provide the passport of the chairman of Avant-Garde. Therefore, the present Secretary of Defence too had intervened here. The Minister of Justice too had intervened. There is an intervention of politicians and officials to suppress the situation.
ප්‍රබල දේශපාලන වගේම නිලධාර යාන්ත්‍රණය මෙදිහත්.
Issuing a statement, the Embassy of China in Sri Lanka says that an agreement has not yet been reached to reduce the expenditure of the outer circular highway by 30 billion rupees. The statement comes following the government statement saying that the cost on the outer circular road was reduced by 30 billion rupees following negotiations with China.
The spokesperson of the Chinese embassy in Sri Lanka, writing to Newsfirst, said today that the news report on the Colombo Outer Circular Highway cost reduction is not in line with the facts. The embassy added that they had contacted the relevant contractor of the Outer Circular Highway in this regard and learnt that no agreement has been reached between the Chinese contractor and the Sri Lanka Road Development Authority on a reduction of cost. However, the Chinese embassy denied the allegation levelled against the government of providing a commission to the former government by stating that the report on a 30 billion commission is groundless. According to the Chinese contractor, the outer circular highway is not an ordinary highway as it consists of 6 lanes, a number of flyovers and bridges. The total contract cost of the Chinese contractor stands at 66.8 billion rupees.
Parliamentarian Bandla Gunawardena says that the government is incurring a loss of 100 million rupees daily over the issuance of treasury bonds that had led to much controversy. The Mayor MP made this statement at a conference in Colombo today.
The seminar, which was titled "The Second Bomb Attack That Rocked the Central Bank," highlighted the controversial bond issue.
4 weeks have lapsed from the 27th of February to the 31st of March. During those 4 weeks, the government was put in a position to deal with a 41 billion interest loss, which means the people had to bear the additional cost with the loss of 41 billion rupees incurred by the central bank. 41 million means a loss of 100 million a day. The single-digit interest rate that was maintained has now changed to 2 digits. This is not going to prevail for a short period, but for 30 years. There is a lot to find out. If the Finance Ministry had requested from the Treasury for requesting for a loan of 10 billion, given that it was a need of 1 billion, then when was this request made? Was this order given to the central bank governor? The total cost for the Galle-Matra highway was 25 billion rupees. The proposal for the Upper Kotmale hydropower plant cost was 23 billion. The total cost of the hedging deal is at 12 billion. The loss incurred over the 4 weeks is at 41 billion rupees. Money was taken from the central bank 3 days prior to this incident. This doesn't mean that they had used this money for this. They have used the money from the central bank. All we need to know is as to when Arjun Mahendran will step down. That is not the only issue. We also need to know as to how this damage will be rectified. Sri Lankan Airlines says that one of its planes bound to Shanghai, China from Colombo was recalled back to the BIA over a technical fault this afternoon. An official attached to the airline said that the passengers were boarded onto another plane.
When inquired by Newsfirst, the duty manager at the airport said that the plane, which left the airport at 2:10 p.m, returned at 4:55 p.m. Meanwhile, another aircraft, a Mihin Lanka flight carrying 159 passengers, landed shortly after takeoff on Sunday. The aircraft MJ501 was scheduled to leave to Dhaka at 7:30 a.m, but the flight was delayed for 2 hours. The flight that took off afterwards was landed at the Katunayake airport due to a technical fault.
A fire was reported from a shoe factory in Navina, Maharagama this morning. The fire department and the officials attached to the Dehiwala Mount Lavinia Municipal Council doused the fire together with the assistance of the locals in the area.
This factory is located 200 meters away from the Navina junction on the high-level road. According to the locals, with the fire, several explosions had also been reported. There are many houses surrounding the factory as this is an urban area. Locals had prevented the fire from spreading to another factory close to this ill-fated factory. The fire that erupted at around 11 a.m. today prevailed for a few hours. The fire had erupted while a number of external employees were at work today, given that today is a holiday. 3 persons were welding today. There were a few used thinner bottles on the floor. The factory caught on fire owing to the bottle of thinner and a welding cord that was there. The area residents expressed their protest against a factory being established at a populated area. If this had happened in the night, everyone would have been fast asleep. The fire was doused because we were on alert. They were not at work. We were the ones at work. There was no fire extinguisher here at all. If there was one, the fire could have been contained. The source of the fire is from the outside, not from inside the factory. The fire extinguishing equipment is also in the outside. Because they are not aware on how to use them, water had been used to douse the fire.
On to business news tonight, Deputy Minister Ranjan Ramanayaka says that the interest waiver on pawned gold jewellery is taking place as promised. However, the Ministry of Finance issued a circular to the state banks in this regard, where an issue arose over who will be provided with this relief.
In the interim budget that was presented recently, it was said that the interest payments on pawn jewellery to a value not exceeding 200,000 rupees held at state banks will be waived as a special relief. Therefore, although the time period for some persons to redeem their pawn jewellery had passed, many continue to delay redeeming their jewellery, hoping for the relief to be provided for them as well. However, with the issue of the circular from the Ministry of Finance, it was revealed that not all will benefit from this program. This subject was brought up on the political program Satana yesterday.
According to this circular, jewellery pawned before the 31st of October 2013 are already being taken over by the bank. Why are the people being deceived? This is not happening. The women are in tears.
When Minister
Rosi Senanayaka brought this up at the working committee, the Minister of Finance was of the view that this will not happen when he was questioned by the Prime Minister. The Minister of Finance was pressurized over this. The Prime Minister too was there at the working committee, and he said that all will take place accordingly and made a promise. As a member of the government, I wish to make an apology.
We made this
promise because we can grant this. We promise to definitely resolve the issue to which you all have asked us. Newsfirst inquired into this matter from the Minister of Finance, Ravi Karunanayaka.
It is its responsibility that we can say that those who are supposed to receive this relief on the 1st of April will receive it. We are committed to waive the excess interest and mete out justice. All the finances will take place to the banks. Once it was said that this will happen only in 2 state banks. We have introduced this to the regional banks as well. That is where the innocent people go to pawn their jewellery.
A
5-member national selection committee headed by Sanat Jayasuriya was appointed on the 28th of January 2013 for a period of 2 years. The other members of the committee were Hashan Tilakaratne, Pramod Vikramasinghe, Erika Prashanta and Chaminda Mendes. Their contracts were to end after the end of the ICC Cricket World Cup. However, Chairman of Selectors Sanat Jayasuriya had directed his letter of resignation this morning to Minister of Sports Navin Disanayake. We have rendered our duty to Sri Lanka cricket during the 2-year tenure. This was done independently. The newly appointed interim committee seems to have a very different way of doing things. So therefore we thought of giving some space for them to carry out their task, given that we still have a month left to vacate our positions. We have handed over the post for them to swiftly do their jobs.
Still in sports news, the Royal College Colours awarding ceremony for the year 2014 was held yesterday. Around 250 royalists who had received accolades at national and international level were presented with colours at the event yesterday.
The event got underway under the auspices of Minister of Sports and Tourism Navin Disanayake. Sportsmen presented with the colours were selected from an array of 25 sports. Sandeepa Ratnayaka, David Padmenath, Chamika Karunaratne and M.H.M. Shahid were among the 8 students to be presented with the Royal Crown, which is considered as the highest accolade of the year of Royal College Colombo. Hashen Ramanayaka, Sahan Piris, Malitra Sangha and Samira Senarath were also among those who were presented with the Royal Crown. Walid Uwais was adjudged the most talented sportsman of the year. He had won the accolades for his achievements in swimming, water polo and diving.
Sports is so vital and essential now. As we understand in society, it builds character, it molds personalities. It gives us that quality, the edge to fight to the end, to understand other human beings. Also to recognize that winning and losing is the two sides of the same coin. He doesn't mind that you lose, but it's how you play the game.
And that wraps up News First Primetime News for today. It was a pleasure having you with us. For the News First team, I am Shaheen Durangpati.
And I'm Katharina Chang. Take care and good night.